Welcome everyone to another countdown report. Today's date is February 20. We're going to discuss several things today. First is the malware in the European banks and how does that tie in with David Wilkerson's vision of financial collapse. Then we're going to turn our attention to the California dams and how does this factor into possibly Agenda 30 and also the Calexit movement, and how does that tie in with the new army. Uh, Self-replicating malware is in European banks. This has been divulged on Dave Hodges. One of his sources said that. Self-replicating. This he feels will contribute to the Eurobank crash, and that ties in with David Wilkerson's vision, in which he stated that the collapse begins in Germany and spreads. Within 2 weeks of Mexico's collapse, the U.S. collapses, the U.S. defaults. Almost immediately, when the U.S. defaults, $15 billion an hour is going to be drawn from American banks, and they will have to declare a bank holiday. This will be followed by 6 months of the worst hell America has ever seen. The National Guard will be called in. The whole U.S. Army will be called in. People will not be able to get their money out of the bank for 6 months. The nation will once again be restored, but it will never be the great nation that it once was. He envisioned the pillaging that occurred. Specifically, he was in Macy's. I saw the spirit of everybody in the store. They were robbing and stealing. Macy's, this five-story building in New York City, was ruined in a period of an hour or two. And this is a microcosm I offer. This will go across. This will be chaos in the cities. When the banks aren't open, people can't buy. If the banks aren't open, the credit cards won't work. If the credit cards won't work, the trucks won't run because they buy fuel by credit cards. These truckers don't go around with hundreds of dollars in cash on their person. If the trucks stop running, there will be no food in the stores. If there's no food in the stores, everybody will be rioting. Everybody. Those that want to riot just to riot, and those also who want the government to do something because they can't feed their families. 6 months of hell is what he said. Before we start on California, let's look at the topography of California, and it's unique because the San Joaquin Valley, the whole central area of California from San Fran down to San Diego, is like a jacuzzi tub. Here is the topography. It's almost like a giant child, took a scoop right out of the middle of California. Here is San Francisco. This valley doesn't end until almost Oregon up here. This goes the whole length, and it is like a bathtub that is just waiting to be filled. And it has. Sacramento has flooded many times in the past. And here are the jacuzzi jets. They are all of these earthen dams that are built in the Sierras before they come down, before the runoff from this mountain range runs off into the San Joaquin Valley. This was done to save water, but most of these dams, and there are 1,600 of them, most of these dams are 50, 60 years old. And as we will see in this talk, the allocations for infrastructure repair has dwindled and dwindled and dwindled, and now many of these dams are being rewilded. So we can see just the topography of California it lends itself very well to flooding. And we'll go over some issues here. Why is Jerry Brown apparently exhibiting such callous disregard? I mean, his dodging of the press, his failure to answer any questions, his failure to show up at the disaster sites, his failure to declare an emergency evacuation until they see how these new storms are going to affect the area. This is well nigh criminal. He is elected to protect the people, and he's let them back in. He's now saying you might have 15 minutes for an emergency evacuation. We'll talk about that a little later. Why did he replace local repair workers with from outsider union people? And is there a nexus between the dam problems, the Agenda 30, Calexit, and the stated new Army goal focus? So let's see if we can tie these together. Again, I just offer this for your thought process. The state has informed federal dam regulators that there is not enough time to perform evacuations in the communities immediately downstream of the dam. Now, 9,000 people live within 5 miles of the dam. Upwards of 2 or 2.5 million people live within 90 minutes of the dam. And they're saying there's not enough time. Even if you put the order out to evacuate, they do not have the time to evacuate. Civil defense sirens used to be in place and maintained next to the earthen dams to warn people. However, they are no more. How do they here we see Oroville Dam is within 74 miles of Sacramento. Sacramento is a major urban area. If the dam failed, it could cause a 50 to 60 mile an hour tsunami. And at 60 miles an hour, it would take an hour and 14 minutes to get to Sacramento. Could 2 or 2.5 million people evacuate in 90 minutes? No. Many of the evacuation routes are over a floodplain because they're sitting in a bathtub. Those in traffic jams would just be washed away. Here are people trying to evacuate after the last series of storms over the weekend. It's just a traffic jam. Here is another example of the condition of the roads. Could 2.5 million people get out? No. The storm is named Lucifer. Lucifer is not just another name like Joe or Sam. Lucifer has distinct connotations. This is the enemy of mankind himself. Here it is, most dangerous storm. This is the first storm that came in last week. Worst, most powerful storm in 20 years, and they just keep coming. Right now, there are 3 more at least lined up. And this is Monday. Here is the dam. One researcher was wondering about how did that break occur in the spillway. Here's the dam. Here's the spillway. And there's a break right about in here now. It's very severe. We'll see pictures of that later. How did that happen? This researcher noticed that there was a quarry right over here. So he did some investigation. Wish I could remember his name. And he realized that on the day that during the storm, when this broke, there was some very heavy blasting going on over here. In fact, it registered on the Richter scale. And it was only a 1.5 miles or 1.5 kilometers deep. It was very shallow. Could they be linked? The timing is unique. I mean, what are they doing blasting over here when the area is being pummeled with rain? Here's another problem. Shasta Lake is just to the north. This dam is also in danger, especially with the heavy rains forecast. If these 2 dams go, many are saying the bathtub will fill, and it will scour this area. It will scour it. There's going to be no more freeway system, no more gas pipelines. Some people are looking and saying, is this man-made? Is this in any way brought on by other than natural forces? Here is this year's volume in the dam. Here is the history of volume in the dam, and we see it pretty much follows a waveform. This goes back to 1976 when they started building these dams. And here is this year. It's virtually straight up. It's not this waveform. It is straight up. This was Oroville Lake 16 months ago. Here it is now. Within 16 months, it went from this to this. If they have no sirens, how is the immediate order to evacuate disseminated to the people? Well, they did try and tell the local law enforcement, but do you know that was delayed an hour, some are saying? Here's how they notified people. They did it on Facebook. Hey people, you have 60 minutes to get out. If you're not out in 60 minutes, you could drown. Unbelievable. It defies common sense. It defies ordinary care and consideration, let alone if you're the governor of the state. With the incoming storms, if they get the rain that they're scheduled to get, the output from the dam will be 58 times what we're seeing now. So what we just saw on the dam, multiply that times 58 times. The latest thing is there are 3 more storms on the way. Here's the damage done after the Thursday through Saturday storm. This is the emergency spillway. You can see they're trying to fill this in with rocks so this area does not further give way. And we'll see a little later on in the movie, in the discussion here, that this is probably all not natural terrain. This is not bedrock here. This is probably all built on, it's artificial. The area is over here. They're trying to repair this. Here we see the break. And here we see where the side of the sluice has broken out and the water is going over here. It's cutting out under the hill because it mines back in there like a chainsaw. And they call it piping. We'll see a video on that in a minute. It pipes underneath the ground, threatening the integrity of this whole side of the dam. The dams are aging, most being built prior to 1969. In 2005, groups sued the states for maintenance on Oroville, but no action was taken, citing cost concerns. But yet, under Jerry Brown, they can spend $25 billion a year on illegals. In 1975, 20% of the state budget was ordained to be allocated for infrastructure repair. However, that has decreased, especially under Jerry Brown. Now only 86 of the 20% it goes for infrastructure repair. This is from an Oroville local. The two spillways are useless in terms of providing relief to the dam. The dam is on its own. We have not. This person seems to be an insider here. We have not. It seems as if he's working on the dam, been able to bring the water levels down for 50 feet. Over time, this dam will fail, and I think this dam will do so before the end of the winter. Just think with this local working on the dam. He has homes. He has a home in this area. He loves this area. He lives, his kids go to school in this area. He knows people in this area. Imagine if he's working on the dam and he goes home and he's telling everybody, and even the internet, what it's like to work out there. because Jerry, they were saying the water Department of Water in California was saying we brought the levels down 50 feet. The crisis is over. You can return. This guy is saying no, we haven't. The locals think an evacuation is needed for at least 10 days so we can see how the dam is going to react. Brown's people from the water department disagree, and they say we are overreacting. Why don't these people self-evacuate? Well, probably if there's an order to evacuate, it unleashes many relief stands, food, housing. Then the state is obligated to take care of you. And there's many benefits versus going and staying in a hotel with your family for 10 days, feeding them, out of what, restaurants or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches out of the grocery stores. So they want the state of emergency to be declared. And there's a difference. The locals want it, Brown's people don't. Brown's people are replacing the locals and with outsider union people. Outsiders who don't go home and talk at night. Outsiders who don't live and love the area. Outsiders who have no connection to the area. They don't talk. Dam failure would be catastrophic. This person continues, there is not enough time to evacuate. We should have expanded the evacuation area. It should have included Sacramento. And here is a mock of what happens when the ground is saturated. This is a mock of an earthen dam. Look at the ground underneath. Look at the water. It saturates this. It turns it dark. It turns it to mush, almost like quicksand. And that is a problem in all the California dam systems. They are saturated. Here's Paul Preston on Hodges Radio. There's a forecast for a super soaker Sunday through Tuesday, which is right now. I think just started today, Monday. And there are 2 more storms lined up after that. Governor Jerry Brown replaced independent workers on the dam with union guys. Why? To control information? Probably. Here is something very interesting. It's concrete chute damage is creeping up toward the dam. And there's piping. The canyon where the dam is built, much of it is artificial. And no, he doesn't think if they get the rain that he thinks they're going to get, they will not survive the week. Here is a picture of when the dam was being built in Oroville. Notice how much of the ground is low. And they've built it up. It seems as if the topsoil here, at least the whole third of this is fill. And the problem is, if this is fill, it is much less stable, much less dense. If this goes, look what it'll do. It'll grab this lip of the earthen dam and start to damage or destroy the dam itself. Here's the hole in the chute, in the sluiceway. Look at how it is burrowing back into the mountain. It is undermining the integrity of the whole left-hand portion of the dam. It's undermining this whole area. Here is as the dam sat, and here's the original picture. It looks as if this down here might be natural. This might be original, this lip, but all of this looks like it's artificial and fill. Look where this sluice is. Look where this damage is. It's already attacking this area. If it's working back into the ground piping, we're going to see a movie now about the piping and see a little demonstration. This happened with the Teton Dam failure. So they have experience on what can happen to a saturated ground where there is piping and earth damage. Here is here are all the pipe systems, the natural gas going through California. If these dams break, or if even Oroville breaks, it will damage a lot of this. That would mean people have no energy. What about the electric lines? How long is it going to take for those to be repaired? Here's the freeway system. Here is Oroville right there. What if this whole area is flooded? And there's so much volume there, it would virtually scour this area. It would scour it. There would be no more freeway system here. Does that mean there's no more northwest trucking up along the west coast? Or west east? This is a major port. I mean, is there no more trucking into Nevada? 80 goes into Nevada. That would impact the whole country. Here's Sacramento in a former flood. It floods all the time. That's why they built the earthen dams, and not only, also to save water. And here is a hypothetical arc storm. They call it an arc storm. They're calling these storms an arc storm. You can see how the bathtub would fill up. The water depth of 10 to 20 feet, that's right over Sacramento. This whole area here would be underwater. With this kind of water, it would scour the area. There'd be nothing left. No more electricity, no more gas, no more freeway system, no more connection. San Francisco would be virtually isolated. Here's the projection, over 13 inches. Look where it is. It's right on Oroville. It's right at the foot of the Sierras, right here. Jerry Brown has had a policy of rewilding the San Joaquin Valley. Agenda 21, which is morphed into Agenda 30. Of course, we know the globalists want to kill 90 to 90% of us, 95% of us. They don't need us, and 8 billion people is too much to control. They can't control that many people, so get rid of most of us. They don't need us. They're making robots and droids and AI, artificial intelligence. They don't need us, and those things do not have a will. People have a will, so people are trouble. Kill them all. We don't need them. Put people in pack and stack megacities so the kings of the earth can enjoy or use the rest. They're going to reserve the rest of the country and eventually the globe. That's their goal. Their leader has to be Lucifer himself, and that was the name of the storm. Was this Lucifer storm designed to bring about the plans of Lucifer himself? What is he telling these leaders? He's telling them the same thing he told Eve, Chava, in the garden. He's telling them, no, you will not die, and you shall be as God. Here's your kingdom. I'll give you the earth. You can be the kings of the earth, and you rule, and you won't die. Brown spent $250 million to remove dams on the Klamath River in order to rewild them. Here we see the Georgia Guidestones. Look at the ton number 1 on top. Maintain humanity. Under 500 million people, souls, in perpetual balance with nature. Interesting what else they want to do here. Give us a unite in a new language. Let me see, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So the kings of the earth, the Jerry Browns of the earth, will tell us what we should have passion about, what our faith should be, and what our traditions should be. Here is the Agenda 30. Notice the key in the bottom right down here. The green spots allowed use by humans. So if you see a green spot up here, you can live there if they say you can. If it's not green, you can't live there. Here are the Indian reservations, here are the military installations. The rest of this country belongs to the kings of the earth. Notice this. Most U.S. roads, highway infrastructure will not be maintained. Rewild all of this area and put people in pack and stacks. The smart grid infrastructure is only intended to last 20 years until 2030. That is Agenda 30, according to industry documents. Here are the voting patterns in the last election. Here, of course, is California. The impacted area is mostly up in here. Here are the foothills. Here's the San Joaquin Valley. If a lot of these people die, they're red people. Jerry Brown doesn't want them. Let them die. Here's the new army. And Brown, let's go back here for a minute. And Brown gets to be king in here. Those who have been in the Calexit meetings say, who else is there? It's the cartels. It's the Chinese. It's the Russians. It is top Obama agents after the election. It's La Raza. It's the Chinese banks. And everybody gets a piece of this. It's a win-win for this group. Brown gets to be king. The cartels get to rule because they don't want all these people to live anyway. Go sell them drugs and abuse them and use them and just throw them out in the dump heap. The Chinese would get the ports of Long Beach, San Diego, and San Francisco. Of course, they have Long Beach already. The Russians would be allowed a California. They allowed a California embassy to open in Moscow, so they're there also with their money also. If they can, and that would give them a right. They own that state. Imagine if the Chinese and the Russians could set up. They could use the ports to bring in troops. They could use the existing. We have the Navy port down here. We have Long Beach up here. We have Miramar right up in here, right up in there. We have huge military installations here. San Diego is the major Navy port on the West Coast. Imagine if the Chinese and Russians could occupy this. Imagine how that would impact the rest of the country. They'd love it. That would make it much easier for them to defeat this country. And here is the last slide. This is from the New Army. This is from Alex Jones. In the Army literature, they say this: our current and past strategies can no longer hold. We are facing environments that the masters of war never foresaw. We are facing a threat that requires us to redefine doctrine and the force in radically new and different ways. A future army will confront a highly sophisticated, urban-centric threat that will require urban operation to become the core requirement. The future is urban. That's right, the kings of the earth have the whole land. What 500 million people are allowed to live, they put into megacity Packenstocks, and the army is sent in as the police force. This is our future. How grateful we are for the redemption and the promises we have through our Messiah, that this will not, if this is our temporary future, it will not be our future for long. I myself cannot wait until God himself starts fighting against these elites and starts showing his hand. So I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.